Thanks for tuning in to another program of Table Talk here in the studios of BTW21. I'm the host, Chad Hall. Got a great show lined up for you here today. Going to talk a little bit about public safety, and some of you may not even know what public safety means. But I got a guy joining me, Matt Tatum, who I'm sure with about 20 years plus experience can help us with that. Matt, thanks for coming on the show, my man.
Good morning, Chad. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on the show. And Matt, you know, I think it was Emmaus 82 I was a part of, and you were a part of that. That was a great event, by the way.
Yes, it was.
The Emmaus Walk.
Yes.
What a great thing for the guys to do, and it just hit me right now. That was such a great event. So, but you know, Matt, a lot of folks may not understand what is public safety, and you know, they might not even understand that word.
Well, public safety has a very broad definition, and in Henry County, a good way to describe it is if you were to call 911 in Henry County for any service other than the sheriff's office, you're going to receive public safety.
Okay.
Public safety, we do fire fighting, fire suppression. We have 8 amazing volunteer fire departments that help us in our community with the fire suppression. The Department of Public Safety also has career staff to help with that. And then we have 5 great volunteer rescue squads that also provide EMS services or emergency medical services to our community. And the Department of Public Safety aids with that with career personnel as well. Our office also houses the fire marshal to go out and whenever there is a fire that needs to be investigated to determine the cause and the origin of the fire. We have the fire marshal's office in our office. They also do routine inspections of businesses and to make sure that our community is safe. And then another major component is all these emergency services require a great deal of training. And we have an amazing training team within our department that provides training not only for the career personnel but also for the volunteer personnel who serve our community. And then last but not least is the emergency management side of things. Emergency management on the day-to-day basis is kind of behind the scenes and looking for opportunities how to prepare for emergency or disaster. However, when there is a significant event to hit the community, such as a tornado, widespread power outage, or flooding, or something I don't know if you've heard about here lately, but we've had this thing called COVID going through our community.
I think I have heard of that, Matt.
So the emergency management role of things really gets involved with that, trying to we can't control when disasters hit our community.
Sure, absolutely.
But we can be prepared as best as we can, and then an emergency manager, we try to mitigate or reduce the amount of negative impact that a significant event such as this may have on our community.
Right. Well, basically, a community like ours not having this is like a country not having a military.
Very true.
I mean, if you take away everything he just said, man, our community would be in trouble.
Yeah.
And you're right, we've got all kind of great volunteers.
Absolutely.
And the training. And then tell me, let folks kind of learn a little bit about Matt here. I mean, I just found out, I didn't realize you'd been a trooper, but kind of explain how you got to where you are and what made you decide to get into the EMS field, because you're certified in EMS. Kind of walk me through your career. Where did you make some changes and say, I want to do this in life?
Well, early on, I was about 15, 16 years old. I had this itching to learn CPR.
Okay.
I wanted to learn CPR. And one of my buddies that I went to high school with, he said, hey, you come join the rescue squad, we'll teach you CPR for free.
And 15, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
free.
Yeah, free, because the very little money, and hey, free is good. So I joined the rescue squad with the sole purpose of learning CPR. What they didn't tell me is you truly never learn CPR because it constantly changes.
Right.
So I've been in it now for over 30 years and I'm still learning CPR. But no, that's the joke I tell the new guys. But I got into it, and I started off as a volunteer, and at the time, obviously, I wasn't compensated financially.
Sure.
But what greater compensation can you have than to know that something you done saved someone's life or either helped them in probably one of the worst times of their life. I mean, none of us ever want to have to call 911.
Sure.
And so that is a bad day when we have to call 911. So
It really is.
So I started that as a volunteer, and then I went to work for Virginia State Police. I was a trooper here in Henry County for about 4.5 years, and the job came open with the Department of Public Safety. And being an EMS was always a passion and a love of mine. So I left the state police and come to the county, and I love every minute of it. I love what I do. I went on to pursue getting my paramedic, which is the highest level of pre-hospital care certification you can get. I got that, and then become a firefighter. I also volunteered as a firefighter for many years, and just we're constantly learning, and there's constantly new ways of doing things, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited about that we've got going on. Is I've already mentioned our community has been served and continues to be served by great volunteers.
Absolutely.
And,
I agree with that 100%.
absolutely. We've got some people that volunteer in our community that truly have the passion to serve. And unfortunately, in the way society is going, volunteerism is on a decline. I mean, you even see it in your church. I mean, it's hard to get people to volunteer to even teach Sunday school anymore.
Right.
In Royalton clubs, they're struggling for volunteers, but so is our fire departments and our rescue squads. And the training that is required, not only for them to be able to do the job effectively, but that training also helps them to do it safely, because being a first responder can be put yourself in danger sometimes, so you have to learn how to do it safely. And because of the demands that's been put on the volunteers, because of the call volume increase in society and way of life dictating more people having to work multiple jobs and everything just to make ends meet, our volunteers numbers are reducing. So about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I guess it was, the county hired career personnel to assist these volunteers with firefighters and paramedics. And up until recently, we had been able to actually hire some of our volunteers that were already trained and already certified. But we've gotten to the point now where we now are hiring people who are untrained, and we are putting them through the training. And we just graduated our first academy. We've done a partnership with Franklin County, and we run a joint academy with them. And we're getting ready to launch our second one. And that's one of the things I really want to get out to the public, is the great opportunity that this is for someone looking for a new career or to start a career, because being a first responder is not a job. It is a career, and it is a calling.
Sure.
And so here is an opportunity for people to start a full-time job with the county, has all the governmental benefits, vacation time, sick leave, good pay, retirement and everything. They start that great opportunity as they're being trained. And once they graduate the academy with successful completion of the certifications, they will then just roll right on out into the field and start serving our community as a firefighter or EMT. The academy is done locally here at the Henry County Emergency Services Training Center with a phenomenal team of instructors that is combined with some folks from Franklin County and some folks from Henry County and some folks from other parts of the state that come in and help teach these programs. It's just really a great opportunity for someone to launch, like I said, a career, not just a job.
And you know, that is so great that I know we're fixing to launch some TV ads as well for that. I think it's exciting because we have the new jail, which is also hiring, a great career opportunity. And we knew that was creating jobs, which I think is a great thing. But to see what you're talking about now, I really like the fact that there's volunteers that's been doing it for 10 years for not even a pat on the back.
Some of them longer.
Not even that a boy.
Yeah.
You're able now to say, hey, you really want this.
Yeah.
I think that is such a blessing to where they can really now benefit from all the volunteering. Not that they want it. Like you said, they're doing it to help others. I love seeing that.
Right.
And I think, boy, there's no reason in the world why we can't keep that funded and keep that working. Right. Because, again, and you and I, we probably had this conversation, and I know I have with folks like Junior and all of them that work hard. Without volunteers, we eventually got to start having a staff.
Right.
And it's the world and day we're living in. We got to move in that direction.
Absolutely. The service has got to be provided.
It's got to be.
I mean, when someone is having a heart attack, they need an ambulance.
Right.
When someone is having a baby at home, they need services. When someone's house is on fire, the car is on fire, woods are on fire, the services have got to be provided. As I said early on, we can't decide when we're going to have an emergency.
Right.
We just have to be prepared the best we can be when that emergency does happen, to be able to mitigate and reduce it as much as possible.
But looking at it from your perspective, you've seen, the decline in the volunteers probably your whole career. Mm-hmm. Maybe not your whole career, but I know the last 10 years you've bound to have seen the decline. How would you feel as far as being able to provide public safety for Martinsville, Henry County, and the other counties that are working with you, to be able to say, okay, we've got Bassett, all these departments staffed? Wouldn't that really take a burden off to know that all those were staffed and running?
It would take a burden off for the planning phase. Sure. However, because of our volunteers, it eliminates a huge fiscal burden.
Sure.
Because the cost to staff, I mean, we've got 8 volunteer fire departments and 5 volunteer rescue squads.
That's a lot.
If we tried to staff those 24/7, I mean, that's 13 different facilities. And if you try to staff those with 2 people 24/7, that's 26 people per day that you've got to have at 12-hour shifts.
Right.
And so, I mean, that would take 50 or 60 full-time people.
Right.
And the financial burden.
Yeah.
So the financial burden that the volunteers relieve off of our community, it's really hard to put a dollar amount on that.
Sure.
And that doesn't include the equipment part of it. That's just the personnel. I mean, these volunteers have done a phenomenal job of buying fire trucks and ambulances to provide the equipment for the community. And sometimes people get a little upset when a volunteer firefighter walks up or rescue squad walks up and says, "Hey, will you buy a $1 raffle ticket?" And the county just helped buy a ladder truck, and that one truck cost over $1 million. Wow. An ambulance without any equipment on it, just the truck to be credentialed as an ambulance without any equipment, is $280,000, $300,000.
Wow.
And I mean, that's a whole lot of $1 raffle tickets.
It is. It really
and
is.
A whole lot of breakfasts. And so the community has been phenomenal supporting these organizations, and that needs to continue because the service has to be provided.
Yeah.
And if we're not providing it with the volunteers, then that's when we do have to do the career staffing. And I think the county board of supervisors have made a very wise decision on the amount of career staffing we do provide. We are not trying to overtake the volunteers. We are here to support the volunteers when they are not available, because they do have other jobs that they have to do and stuff like that. So it is a great partnership that we have with our volunteers and the Department of Public Safety. And many times, Chad, if you ever have to call for an ambulance and a paramedic walks through the door, in that moment, you're not concerned whether they are getting paid or they're volunteer.
No.
They are a paramedic.
Never crossed my mind.
They're here to help me.
Right.
And the career staff and the volunteer staff receive the same training.
Right.
A volunteer paramedic and a career paramedic, they're still paramedics.
Yeah.
And so we have a great team. And again, I go back to this recruitment effort to get people into the academy, because this is not, I mentioned starting a new career, getting involved in a career, but you truly are becoming part of a brotherhood or a sisterhood or a team.
Absolutely.
One of our staff members was asked a couple years ago about what is one of the greatest things about working here. And it made me proud, that because I didn't provoked this comment, but his first response is the family atmosphere.
Right.
And as a family, we don't always get along.
Sure.
We're going to have disagreements. Your brothers and sisters, you're going to have disagreements every now and then. You're going to have a scuffle every now and then. But when it comes time to come together for a need,
the greater good, yeah.
the greater good, you come together, you work together.
Absolutely.
And it's just like with our internal department and with our volunteers. From time to time, you're going to see that the volunteers and the career staff are not always getting along about a subject. But when the fire breaks out, they put their differences aside, they're here to serve. When the car wreck happens, they put their differences aside, they're here to serve.
Yeah.
When the chest pain happens, they put their differences aside, they're here to serve. So when we're asking people to consider this new career opportunity, it truly is even more than a career. Yeah. It's a calling. Mm-hmm. It is a passion, and you become part of a much larger family.
Yeah. And all that is so true. I have no doubt we'll never, ever phase out volunteers.
I pray we don't.
Well, we can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
we can't afford it.
I think it would be great to see the career opportunities grow. Right. But like Matt was saying, it would take millions of dollars and the community just can't absorb it. But I think it's great that it's beginning to grow in that direction. Again, we'll never, like you said, if we ever phase out volunteers, we're in trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to just encourage any of you that if you're watching and you want to be a volunteer, man, you need to get involved. Go by your local department, give Matt a call, give me a call. We'll get you in the right place to where you'd be surprised. They might just need help rolling up the hose after the fire because everybody's tired, cleaning the equipment. It's always something to be done. And that's where the volunteers can really step it up. And I'll be honest, probably every time I've called 911 in my life, and I think I've had 2 incidents, 3, when my grandpa was 3. All of them were volunteers, and they came in. You're right, we didn't ask,
yeah.
But they took care of us.
Yeah.
And that's what's so awesome about this. But I really think it's quite a blessing to see the county, you guys realizing the need. Let's put a staffer there, and a career again. Again, the perfect world would be fully staffed, but that's I don't know if we'll ever see that. Yeah. But it would be great if we could, but we'll probably never experience that. Let's go back to something you were talking about a little bit that I bet really threw a curve in your entire network of a department here. Is that secret word you said earlier? That word COVID. Matt and I, we've been talking, and it's just almost swept us off our feet for the last 2 years. And man, that has got to be rough for volunteers, first responders. You get that chest pain call, you get that emergency. Man, how bad has that changed the department, and what have you kind of had to done to keep the first responders safe?
Well, it has been a task, and I'm not going to get involved with the conspiracy theories, the politics side of this that's been ingrained in this whole COVID thing.
Well, you and I are not politicians.
That's very true.
We're too down there.
Yeah. But COVID is real.
It is.
There's no doubt about it. COVID is real. We all have experienced or lost because of COVID, whether it be a close friend, whether it be family. There have been many, many people that have died from this disease. I am not making light of the disease at all, but it's here. Mm-hmm. And we have got to realize that we've still got to use good common sense practices. Wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. Don't go around other people. If you cough, cover your mouth. If you're running a fever, stay in bed. I mean, these are things that we have all been taught all of our life. Mm-hmm. We have got to continue to use these common practices. But you asked the impact that it's had on first responders, and it has been really daunting. And not only in the medical first responders, the paramedics, but the sheriff's office, and the hospital staff and the nursing staff all around. And because they're already doing heroic things and physically demanding things, and now to protect themselves, They're having to wear additional equipment,
Right.
especially when the disease was new and we didn't have a lot of knowledge about it.
Right.
We was having to take those additional precautions to protect our responders, to keep them healthy so that they could continue to provide the service.
Almost like additional PPE.
Exactly.
Right.
That is
yeah.
exactly what we had to do, was additional PPE. I mean, we've always been trained and always been equipped to wear respiratory protection equipment whenever you suspected that someone had a contagious respiratory disease. But with COVID being so widespread and being so contagious, we've pretty much had to adopt that on every call.
Right.
And so now you're wearing the additional respiratory protection. And these providers, because they are exposed to it so heavily, yes, we all have the facial coverings that we wear, whether it be something that you've bought off a shelf at Walmart, or whether it's a surgical mask or something like that. But these providers, because they are so exposed to it, because those masks, the science shows, or the early science showed, that those masks helped you from transmitting the disease. It didn't protect you.
Right.
It protected you from transmitting, is
right.
what the
That is
early
correct.
science showed.
That's correct.
Well, in the medical world, in the first responder world, we've had to wear the N95s. The N95 protects the wearer,
Right.
in addition to the transmission. So,
And they're expensive.
they're expensive, and the cost of them went out the roof when COVID came. But those actually are a little bit more restrictive on breathing. You can still breathe through them, but they can cause, especially if you wear one for 12 straight hours. And so it has been draining on them. Our staff has and volunteers have put in countless hours of overtime hours. We've had some employees that have worked as much as 200 and 215 hours in a month. Wow. And yes, they are exhausted, but that is the passion that they have to serve. They know that if they're not there, the service may not get provided. Right. And we've got volunteers that have done the same thing, that have been there day in, day out, that have stepped up and helped with the vaccine pods, helped with the testing pods, to try to help mitigate this disaster. Right. I said early on about emergency management. We can't control when a disaster hits, but we try to take steps to mitigate it. And becoming vaccinated, doing testing when appropriate, and so forth. That is all steps to try to mitigate and reduce the impact that this disaster has on our community. And our first responders, volunteer career with the Department of Public Safety, with our Sheriff's Office, with our medical personnel, even our 911 dispatchers. You know, a lot of times we forget about our 911 dispatchers because they're behind the scenes. They are not out on the street, but they are working in close quarters. They get exposures and they get the stress. I could never be a dispatcher. There's no way I could handle that phone call, someone begging for help, and I'm sitting here on the phone with them. Right. I applaud those individuals, because the commitment that they have from the mental aspect and the emotional aspect is just second to none. Yeah. At least when I'm out here on the street, I can at least apply some hands and try to physically help somebody. But
that's a calling too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Really but is. So it has really been daunting, long hours, the additional PPE. Hopefully, I don't see wood, so I use the hardest thing I know and knock on my head. But hopefully we're seeing this curve come back down, and we cannot reduce our practices. We still got to use good common sense. Wash your hands. If you're sick, stay home. I was in a meeting this morning, and one of the conversations that came about is, yes, we may start seeing mandates starting to be repealed and restrictions lightened, but that does not substitute personal responsibility. Right. We've still got to be personally responsible for our own actions. And if you're sick, stay home. Do not expose people. If you cough, cover your mouth. If you sneeze, cover your mouth. Wash your hands. I mean, it's just we got to use good practices to get this disease out of here and get it under control. But yes, it has been draining to our volunteers and to our career staff and our first responders. And again, that's one of the things that has led to this recruitment academy, this opportunity to bring new people in, because it is a great career. Is it a career you're going to get rich at? No. But financially rich, I should say, because I think richness goes far beyond what's in your pocketbook.
Absolutely.
Or in your bank account. And the job is a good paying job. And it comes with great benefits, especially with Henry County. Your health care premiums, we've talked a lot about health, and your health care premiums are covered as far as insurance for the employee. The Henry County has a very good time off accrual policy for sick leave and personal time off. It is just a great place to work. And, you know, we was talking before we came on air, great place to live.
Yeah.
And
I love it here.
It's such an awesome place. You know, several years ago, the hashtag was created, Henry County is home. And I've still got that on my signature line on my email, because Henry County is home. And it's just such a great community. I mean, we have the wonderful Martinsville Speedway celebrating 75 years
this year. Yep.
This year, and the impact it has had on the community. The Dick and Willie Trail, the sports complex. I grew up on Philpott Lake. I'm still biased to that lake. That is the prettiest lake in the nation. And I mean, it is just an awesome place to live. And here's an opportunity that you can work here in this community, stay here in this community, and contribute back to it.
You know, some folks that's probably been watching, we got about a minute left. How can they get enrolled and be a part of that?
The Career Academy, or the Recruit Academy, it is a career, it is a job, so it is an application process, and the applications can be found at henrycountyva.gov/jobs, and just click on the link. It says Firefighter EMT Recruit, and that'll carry you to the application. Once we get the application, we'll reach back out to you. And I want to reach out to the public also. If you don't want to do it as a career, then the Recruit Academy may not be for you, but I still, as Mr. Hall alluded to before, please reach out to us and let us get you connected with a volunteer fire department or a volunteer rescue squad, because the services have got to be provided, and everybody needs help providing these services, career and volunteer.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for your service, and thank you for everything you do in Martinsville and Henry County. And man, you got a great team and a great family working for us. And it's good to know that behind the Sheriff's Department, you guys are all working together. And that's why I love the ones I live, work, and play here.
Absolutely.
Matt, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I want to thank you as well for tuning in. Don't forget that opportunity. Go and click on that link at Henry County and fill out your application. So thanks for tuning in. I want you to stay tuned, because there's more great local programming coming up next.
Our roof was looking really bad, and it had started to leak. That's when I knew we had to call New South Metals. They're locally owned and operated and easy to work with. They have a large selection of colors to choose from. They're fast and have on-time delivery, which helped us get our roof back in good shape. Stop wasting time and money on those old shingles. Everybody knows metal is better.